Today's a very exciting day. So as you guys have seen in the videos prior, I haven't been doing a whole lot of upgrades, and that's just because things are getting really expensive. I've hit this point where all the upgrades are costing so much money. Like, I'm not talking less than $400, which granted, that's not a lot of money for an upgrade in a car, but for me it is, and I don't want to spend an arm and a leg on that stuff. I mean, I want to save up, and I like where this car's at right now, but I also like doing upgrades, and I think you guys do too. This is a unique build. I mean, it's similar to what a lot of people would do, but it gives the essence of style, speed, but also funness. I don't know. It's cool. Anyways, so there's a lot of stuff that I want to do to this car still. So, firstly, I want to get coil packs. I want to do spark plugs and get those freshened up, but those aren't really necessary because there's no tune on this. This is still a stock tune, has the burbles, but this is the thing. I'm like, well, an N55 for a super license is $555, and I would use the OTS maps on that, so stage 2 plus. But the only problem with that is I don't have a front mounted intercooler upgrade, and I'm scared to cut. That's the one thing that's really holding all this back, is that I'm scared to cut any of the fan shroud or any of the shroud or plastic in general to fit an upgraded intercooler front. Now, something that you guys may not know is that N55s, especially the newer ones, they tend to heat soak a lot, and especially if you do tune them. I mean, it's just an obvious thing, so that's why intercoolers are a big must when you're tuning. So eventually we will get this, and it's not gonna happen in this video. It's just, I really gotta get some balls to get that intercooler and then install it. But in today's video, we actually have an engine upgrade. Now, this upgrade, I wouldn't say it's necessarily needed. It's more so wanted, just like everything else is. But this actually is probably gonna help with airflow, and it's a new air intake system, which you guys will see in just a few because it's supposedly coming today. It's gonna make some great noises. You're gonna hear the turbos a lot more than what you already do. Now, when it comes in, I want to explain the difference between this brand and the other brand that I was looking at, because there was quite a big height difference in prices. And I was like, I don't want to spend this kind of money on an air intake system. Well, I'm glad I didn't, because I went with the cheaper one, and I'll tell you why. But when it comes in, we'll go over that. That is right. I went with the CTS Turbo air intake system. So, I don't know if you guys remember when I had my N54, it was a dual cone air intake system, but that's just how the N54 was. This one, as you can see, it's one long tube, and that's really it. Now, here's the thing. I was looking at CTS Turbo, but also MST Performance or something like that. And MST was a massive height difference in price. Like, it was, I think, around $500 or $600. This one by CTS Turbo, which seems to be a lot better by a lot of people, is actually, I think it was like $280, maybe $290. So not bad for an air intake system. It's supposed to be louder, supposed to be better. I don't know. It's just everyone's personal preference. I just felt like it was almost like buying a Louis Vuitton piece versus a Nike piece. And I went with the Nike piece because I don't need something super luxurious that people are going to be like, oh my God, like, who cares? Open this thing up, see what it looks like. I'm very excited. Yay! So here's a couple reasons why I went with the CTS Turbo versus the MST Performance air intake system. The CTS one was actually half the cost of MST, which was one of the biggest reasons, but also was recommended by Euro tuning professionals and has the best whoosh sound. But later in the video, you'll find out that the exhaust is actually more overwhelming, so you can't even hear the whoosh sound. So since this is a cold air intake system, if you just didn't have what I'm about to show you, it's gonna probably suck in the hot air, which was one of the biggest issues with my N54. Like, it didn't have the shielding to it, but sounded cool. It still worked great, but I think, in all honesty, the fuel consumption on that guy, because the air wasn't as cold as it could have been, it showed. And the performance of it was definitely turbo lag, which I felt, but I didn't really do anything because I sold it. So this is bracketry and like a little shield for the air to actually just stay right here and not even be really hit by the warm air being generated by the engine or being warmed up around the engine, whatever. MST also carries this too, but I don't know, I'm just excited to put this on, see what it does, see how it sounds. Obviously, we gotta get a little first-person POV cold start right now. This is it's just so loud. It doesn't matter how hot it is. getting louder. And this is the goal start. It lasts for like 30 seconds, that's it, but it's great. So that baby is going to replace this big old thing right here, this ugly piece of crap. Alright, wait, we're gonna rev it to see how it sounds. Yeah, you can't hear anything. And although this was supposed to be an easy plug and play 30-minute ordeal, I can tell you this, it turned out not to be, which you'll see later in the video if you keep on watching. But this right now is just taking out the old air intake and kind of having that satisfaction of this is about to be upgraded. Why is there so much sand in here? Jesus. I'm not really sure how to put any of this together, and I'm glad that it doesn't come with instructions, so let me just flip to when I actually get this constructed. Yeah. So usually for an upgraded part, I wouldn't be so mad about deletion of an OEM part. However, this one's scaring me a little bit because this is just a cover that goes over some electrical units, which I'm sure go to the DME and the throttle body stuff there. And this does not fit. So this is one of the things that's just a little terrifying, I guess you could say, because I mean, I'm gonna try my best to put it back in, but as you can see, it doesn't look like it's fitting too well. But we have some 10mm screws going to here. This little bracket here holds up this guy, and then a 10mm screw, which, granted, thank God BMW knows that we modify cars and stuff. They put a little hole in here, so that way we can get a screw onto the actual frame and the chassis of it. So far this thing's looking really cool, but I don't know, I'm gonna try and get that on as best as possible, but it doesn't look like it's gonna happen. And unfortunately, this was just the start of where things got a little bit complex. So as you can see right now, I'm messing with that little silver dome piece. Well, as you'll see later in the video, I actually put it on backwards. Obviously, this air intake system has to be mounted to the chassis somehow. Now, the CTS Turbo one is from the OEM grommet spot, which you can see here. But then what's actually quite interesting is that it doesn't fit. So you'll see later in the video that it'll be refabricated. But the MST one, what's cool about it is that it actually doesn't use that grommet spot. It uses this little screw on the radiator support frame, which if you like that better, go for it. I had to do this off camera because this was a little bit frustrating. So this is supposed to be like an OEM fitment and everything, and the things that are really starting to not make me enjoy this setup, which don't get me wrong, it looks really cool in the engine bay, is that one, it looks like this guy's not really in where it's supposed to be, if you know what I'm saying. So this vacuum hose is almost like coming out a little bit. You can see it there, even though it's already broken. But then this guy had to be flipped upside down, and this was my fault where I broke the bracketry of the sensor. So that's lovely. But this has to be flipped upside down. So I guess it's not really the biggest deal in the world. But then here, where the grommet is, it's almost like this is too small or something to fit inside. So it's, yeah. I mean, it's cool. I could get away with a little bit of other things. I mean, this is what's really gonna hold it, which is kind of like my issue here. Let's stop talking so much pessimistic words. I'm gonna go ahead and start this up. We're gonna hear the sound. Hopefully it sounds great. And if you've ever wondered what the car does and or sounds like when you switch the positions of the map sensor as well as the PCV hose, here, listen. Little confused of why I had such a trouble starting up, because there's literally nothing that is like quote unquote modified to do that. This is driving me insane because I try to do liquid like lithium grease and stuff, try to push it down. I think this is gonna have to be modified a little bit, but this thing is so loud that I can't even like rev it enough to where you can hear this. But that startup, man, yeah, I'm not really sure how I feel about that. Obviously, we already know what the problem is, but I want you guys to keep watching this video because when I realize what's happening, it's funny. because as you can clearly see, it's not right. And this is where I'm realizing I screwed up. So I actually flipped, which we all know, the silver part. It's supposed to be flipped the complete opposite way. That way you can have the sensor before or after, however you're saying this, before the PCV hose. So as you can see now it's corrected, but the other part is not, which you'll see. But at least we can start it, turn on, and see what it sounds like. Alright, so with any luck, this is going to go a whole lot better. I think it should, now that the sensor's switched. There we go. Yeah, turns on. Pretty good. Awesome. Heck yeah, dude. Oh, we run into another issue. God damn it. Oh, man, what turned out to be such an easy install is not. Just as an FYI, for anybody who has this too, just understand that this you do have to cut out a little bit to make the grommet fit a lot better than what it ever can, because now it's pretty flush. Everything's on here, so this is the magical moment to see whether or not this fits. I hope this fits. It does. Thank God. Yeah, you really can't hear much of it with it. Air intake, it's not, I think this exhaust is just so loud you can't really hear anything over it. I heard a little bit of it. Yeah, it's not bad. I'm in sport mode, so now you can actually hear it. It's a little bit. It's not very like loud,